Middlekauff! Heavy, hey!
What's up, everybody? Welcome. You good?
Ham reporting for duty.
Ham reporting for duty. Holiday pay time and a half, baby.
I'm going to need a guy. I don't know if you've checked the crypto markets. I'm down about 30K right now.
Bye.
That's what old Jim Cramer would tell you.
Have you been watching Billions?
No, I was out on this season. I tried to watch that first episode of the new season.
No axe.
But to me, I tried to watch the first episode. I'm like, this ain't for me anymore.
So I've been watching it due to a lack of other options, and forgotten about it. Honestly, had not been watching it due to a lack of other options. And some of their casting choices are interesting, but they have a fake Jim Cramer type internet guy that they like became part of the show in one of the episodes. He's not on the show; they just watch him a couple of times, and he's pretty funny. His thing is he eats a hamburger, and then he somehow flips it into a take on a stock, and then the harder he slams the hamburger on the ground, the more he likes the stock. It makes no sense. It's not supposed.
Oh, and then he blares. Did you see Portnoy's Instagram story? I thought he was claiming that was him, but it wasn't.
Oh, is that what he was saying? That they stole his bit?
Well, and then I watched it. It wasn't maybe they merged Portnoy into Cramer into
Well, there's I definitely think of Portnoy too, because he gives a rating on a burger, but then it becomes a Cramer. Bye, slams the burger, then he blows into a shofar, which gives it makes no sense. But yeah, so I didn't see the Portnoy, but I definitely thought of him when I saw that clip. So maybe that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's kind of, I saw someone give out Cramer's stock picks over the last couple of years. He's a little Stephen A. Smithy. It doesn't really matter because he's wrong a shitload.
Yeah, he's doing
I actually started watching this Netflix show called Inventing Anna. Not terrible.
Oh, I heard that's good.
It's not bad at all. The blonde
Ruth Langmore.
Trailer
Ruth
trash
Langmore.
from Ozark. Yeah, she's pretty good in that.
By the way, for the YouTube, if you're watching the YouTube, I realize I had messed with my audio level here, and sometimes I can be too loud, louder than John. On the podcast, if you're listening, this is not going to be an issue for you. It'll be fixed by then, because it can be edited. But am I too loud? Am I louder than John? I'm just asking the YouTube people that question, and let me know if I need to turn myself. I just turned myself down a little bit, but let me know if we need to do that. While we're talking, Brandon on the stream says, Middlekauff, have you tried hazy barbecue yet?
No. I don't even know what that is. Did someone bring that up? Maybe
I don't know. We were just it's in Danville. I did a quick Google search, and we were just in Danville, right? We in Danville?
Yeah, we were in Danville. Yeah.
Looks pretty good.
I mean, I'd be down. I love a good BBQ joint.
Hazy barbecue.
Hole in the wall or kind of nicer?
Looks nice.
Yeah.
Looks nice.
I feel like there were that many chains in Danville. Did you get that vibe? I haven't spent that much time, at least on that side, downtown. We've gone before that Buffalo Wild Wings when back in our terrestrial radio days. That little chainier over on that side where we were, the downtown. It's independently owned. That to me is. I was in Davis this weekend. Or just for 24 hours. But I swung by Posh Bagel on Saturday morning. I just love a good, I don't mind a Starbucks or whatever, but the restaurants and the food spots are not fucking Applebee's and stuff,
Right. Yep, I agree with you. RJ says Alamo sauced is way better.
But sauce is a chain.
But is it a chain like they have 5 of them, or is it a chain like McDonald's? Because to me, I got 5 of them.
It's not McDonald's, but there's one right by where the Kings play. I mean, yeah, it's a cooler chain, I guess.
Well, I guess my point is I don't want to penalize you for doing so well that you now have 20 restaurants. That's still to me different than McDonald's that are franchised, right? Ike's is a chain, quote unquote, because he's done so well, he's got a bunch of Ike's. But I still look at him like that is mom and pop in terms of, I am more inclined to support that type of place.
Where would In-N-Out fall on the scale?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, are those franchisees?
I don't think so. She owns them all. And she prints that money.
Yeah, well.
Hazy goes hard.
Hazy goes hard.
Do you know what the other thing
Hazy
I
would
love,
be a
though?
good name for a girl.
Posh Bagel. You just walk in there, you get a couple things, and he goes, that'll be $8.99. You go, that is refreshing. You know, not order just a bagel that is $17. If you want to add lox, that's an extra $5. It's like, this is my jam. Can I also get a croissant then as well?
I think there's a place, maybe it's not called Posh, San Francisco. I used to get it like on the way into to our old job in the morning sometimes.
What would a bagel run you?
No, I mean, not $5.95 probably with with eggs in it, that type of thing, egg and cheese.
There was this
on and everything.
Been to the bar Bacci. It's in Tiburon, right on the water. Cool restaurant.
No, I went to a place right next to it once, but
I remember going there probably when I lived in Pack Heights, so it would have been like 12 or 13 with Kenny and Nick Amendola, and went there kind of day drinking, having a good time. I remember, you just look at the menu. This is in 2013. It was relative to the rest of America, like the prices were pretty outrageous. I was telling someone this weekend, I can't even imagine what a cocktail's running you right now at that place. If you told me that a Tito's and soda at Bar Bacci was $29.99, like the price, like a loaf of bread, like the extra to go along with your meal cost you $30. Like I would believe any price point you gave me for different items, right? You're like, beer on tap is $19.99, 12 ounce. The 16 will cost you $28.
John, let's get to the news, as somebody on the stream says. Although you might see Klay Thompson at Bar Bacci, you never know. The Amendolas are John's cousins, by the way, former Bulldog and Bruin football players. So, great, all around great guys. Sunday was weird, right? Sunday was weird. We're recording the show on a Monday, which is not our normal podcast. And Sunday was weird. I haven't quite shaken off the weird. Maybe it's because we didn't do a show.
I honestly think it gets weird, I think, when bowl season kind of comes to an end, because you get from basically early September, late August till early December just in a routine of like, I got a couple games I ain't missing on Saturday, and I'm consuming everything on Sunday. And, depending on, there might be a good, could be like, Oregon, Stanford or something on Friday night. You're like, oh, that's pretty good, actually. You just never know. Thursday, and then you got an NFL game Thursday, so you're getting very routine-oriented. The bowl season throws you off a little bit, which you don't mind because you're like, oh, random game on Wednesday night. But you always have the Sunday football that carries with you to January. And we watched the game together, I guess, last week. It was jarring to there's just no even option to consume football.
No.
It's why we took the day off. You felt a little lazy, but also, I'm just speaking for myself.
You're speaking for me.
I also just needed to I have to balance to not hate what I do. And when I say that, I say it somewhat tongue in cheek, but just get angry at this was a weekend. This was a BP. And I even think next weekend, depending on what happens, there's just not, we'll get into Juwan Howard, but let's fucking call a spade a spade. No one actually gave a fuck about that game until Juwan Howard put his hand on the guy's face.
You're skipping topics, though. The USFL draft is on Tuesday, so don't skip ahead of the headline, John.
But I don't even know, what does that even mean?
I don't know, but this is what I think what it means is we'll find out if there's anybody playing in the league that you've heard of, right? Like that's how these drafts always go, is you don't know who's in the game, then there's who's in the league, then there's a draft, you're like, oh shit, Chris Ricks went third. That's probably what you're waiting.
Christian Hackenberg still slinging the pill?
Christian Ponder?
But that's another one. Like on social media, there'll be a couple guys like Ponder or Hackenberg or whoever, even probably more recent. Maybe like who was Gruden's guy that he kept behind Mariota?
Peterman?
Yeah, a guy like that. And people are like, I want to check him out. And Twitter be like, I can't wait. None of you guys are going to watch.
No, we're not going to watch. But I will watch. That's the thing. I will watch in the sense that I'm going to check it out. That's different than like watching.
Isn't Hugh Jackson one of the coaches?
Hugh Jackson's one of the coaches. No.
Mike Tomlin?
Kevin Sumlin's one of the coaches.
Yeah. Stoops. That was last year.
He? No, Stoops.
No, that was XFL.
Think,
Right.
Who did I see? Is June Jones? No. Now we have to go down this rabbit hole and answer.
Well, because I've consumed some of these leagues the last several years, and I hate it. Like I don't do it. I run out of inventory of what I can't consume.
No Hugh Jackson. Skip Holtz, Kevin Sumlin, Larry Fedora, Todd Haley. Remember the Todd Haley thing was like, did Todd try to get?
Yeah.
Who did Todd try to get out of retirement? Oh, Cam? Was it Cam Newton or Jameis? Who was it?
Well, remember Tom got in the fight when he was coaching for the Steelers?
Yeah, but Todd, there was a thing that like Todd Haley tried to get a hold of somebody to come play for him.
Missed that story. Any story I see with USFL, I skip, guy. I have actively avoided
Mariota. I don't remember who it was. Anyway, Jeff Fisher, Mike Riley, among the coaches. Okay. So there you go. Yes, I'm with you. Was it the XFL day or the AA? It was the AAF. You and I talked about it. It was very suspicious, the amount of people on the internet that said they were locked in and this is going to work and they've nailed it and this is working. And
we thought people were getting paid. Thank you. We thought people were getting paid to tweet.
It was not. Yeah, it was not a quarterback. It was AB,
who he coached with the Steelers.
Yeah, and AB's like, leave Todd Haley, leave me alone. AB said it on Menery's show, I think.
Gotcha. I'd
be
wrong.
I'd
be lying if I said I didn't watch some. No, I actually didn't watch any of that interview. I actually like the Nelk boys when they have like, I watched their whole John Daly interview. I watched their interview with Shaq, was pretty good. Refused to do like I'm sorry, like I like Kanye's music. I don't understand the fucking thing they wear on their head. Like, do they see? Do they have eye holes? What are those two wearing over their head? But they've become like.
I haven't asked.
But do you notice that thing that they wear?
I saw it, and I just refused to even wonder. That was my at the Super Bowl. The best was somebody said, "Great view of
wearing
Kanye."
It around town, guy.
I refuse to ask, John. They want you to ask. I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to participate. You're not getting Guy Haberman.
But they're like BFFs now, those two. But see, those two interest me, Kanye and AB, much more than the U.S. Like, I will spend way more effort, which will be very minimal, into Kanye and AB than I will a second on Jeff Fisher versus Todd Haley. Nope, not getting my time.
I'm giving them 10 minutes. I can promise you that.
What channel?
I think it's on Fox. It might be on Fox and NBC or something like that.
Well, it's definitely on Fox because you're right. Because I saw FS1.
Well, Cowherd did the team. I remember a few months ago, it was like Cowherd reveals the teams.
Well, then I saw the other day, like,
and I'm available. So,
Yeah, on social media, they're like, it's just Middlekauff talking shit here. Fox Sports 1, what's the show after them? Speak for Your Buddy was like, we're going to have the draft order coming up next. So they've invested.
Hey, man, I'm going to need the content. This is where the combine is like, we need the content now. And the combine, there's some debate going on. I don't know if you've noticed the debate about whether not doing the thing that they want you to do qualifies as a boycott. Because there's like, well, the players aren't boycotting if they show up. They're just not working out. And it's like, well, okay. I mean, we could not call that a boycott. But if all the agents get together, quote, Schefter, agents are not threatening a boycott, rather just advising players en masse to hold off on workouts until their own pro days. They will still encourage players to participate in medical, interview, and non-physical testing. Clubs have expressed privately that they're fine with players not working out at the combine and are more interested in seeing players put their best foot forward. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of pushback here from the league on this.
Well, no, because when you said the most important part of the combine, the most important part of the combine by a mile is the medical. And it's the thing that the NBA has lost touch with. Touch is the wrong word. Lost control of. All the top guys are like, no medical for you. And they're like, we'll give our medical to one team in the top 10. In the NFL, it's universally accepted. Now, probably you could say, well, it's just more guys get injured, but you would think you wouldn't want your medical information. You don't want people to know you got a degenerate knee. If you're going to go in the second round, then it's going to fall to the fifth. But you go to get the universal medical check. And I would say the interviews truly matter for a percentage of the guys, but like, Kenny Pickett, for example, the quarterback from Pitt, from what I've heard, he's really smart, high character. What are you really asking him in these interviews? Like in the 15-minute speed dating one. But the medical, if he shows up to do the medical, and I would say the height, weight, because I was listening to DJ, one argument, and I'm sure we'll talk about
Daniel
this guy,
Jeremiah.
Kayvon Thibodeau, about he's listed at like 6'5.5", 260. Most of the league thinks he's like 6'3.5", 240. Like, what does he look like in the the firing line of lining up? Mm-hmm. That to me is important to get a body. Now your West Coast guy or whoever has gone through has seen him up close and personal, but like the entire league and your defensive coordinator and the guys that are around your NFL players every day get a feel for like, yeah, this guy doesn't look the part. You got to be careful with that. There's not like a right or wrong. We've seen a lot of different guys. Quarterback's a good example, right? A lot of small quarterbacks have been drafted high recently.
Yeah, but you still want to know what it is you're getting up front. And this year is in particularly an odd year, right? There's no clear cut number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, that type of thing. And so maybe, there is some possibility that teams do learn things between now and the draft that really do affect where they draft a player, as opposed to in years past where you can start slotting in the top of the draft before we even get to the combine. But maybe we've seen the end of the combine.
Last year, we knew, didn't necessarily know the order after 1, but we knew the top 7, 8 guys that were going to go in the top 12, right? Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell, the wide receivers, the 2 Alabama guys.
We knew a lot of the quarterback. I mean, we knew, did you say we knew 1 and 2? Sorry.
I didn't include 2, but I would put Wilson, Lance, Fields as a group of guys that were going to get drafted really high. And then like as the time went, it was like, well, Mac's going to go high too.
Also think about a lot of quarterbacks have stopped throwing anyway at this thing. Right? Like from a quarterback standpoint, we're pretty conditioned to do personal combines as it is. Like what was the first big one? Was it the Johnny Manziel? Well, I mean, Jameis's was pretty big, I think, right? Like pro day, the player doing their own pro day, not at the NFL combine. The quarterbacks. Jamarcus's, I guess, is famous for being pretty big, right? But like these guys have stopped throwing at the combine. A lot of them.
Yeah. I think quarterbacks, it feels like, have been pretty big for a long, long time. But you're right. They would double dip. They would do both. Now it's like, I'm not throwing here. You got to come to mine, and we're going to have fucking sweet music, and I'm going to have pads and helmet on. It's going to look badass.
I'm going to throw to guys I know.
Yeah.
So
George Whitfield putting me through the deal.
We miss out on the Belichick watching through the binoculars, in the bleachers by himself, people holding out stopwatches, that sort of thing. But maybe the combine as we know it is done in Indianapolis, and it'll make its return for Stan. But because if the combine doesn't have the workouts, then it's not the same television content.
Well, it's
that
not.
The NFL Network has produced for years and years and years and years and years.
I would say the NFL Network would not be happy, which is the NFL. Like the NFL needs to, and this is on the leadership in the front office of not the teams, but of the league office. And I was texting with a buddy the other day, and he was like, the problem is, and this has been Belichick's thing forever, is everyone in the league office doesn't give a fuck and doesn't know the inner workings of what happens at the combine. They don't truly care. They just want to put on because they're not former GMs. They're not former coaches. Like Goodell just wants the content for TV so they can sell it to Pepsi.
Yeah, which is smart.
But the problem is the reason they have this predicament now is because you have guys that are like, this is not a good idea to put them in a bubble.
Right.
Like Goodell ain't talking to player agents who are the people that freak. The players, like, let's face it, Kayvon Thibodeau, Aiden Hutchinson are really going to be the headliners, but like there aren't that many famous players. They would do whatever they're told, right? It's not their idea to like, I'm holding out on this. They're told that by their agents.
By people who have been through it before. They've never been to the combine. They don't know that they're worse off there than they are at their pro day.
Well, wouldn't you do whatever your potential employer that wanted to draft you 1, 2, or 3 told you to do? You would just say yes. Most players, because they're used to that anyway in college. Maybe a little less and less.
Yeah. It just doesn't with the agents. Yeah, they're used to the agents telling them what to do in college.
Yeah, it's true.
What college to go to, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, all right, John. As someone on the stream said, we're here for the Brady rumors. Well, the Brady rumors don't die. Mike Sando, who's not by any stretch like a rumor monger, he's an NFL reporter on The Athletic. Take a listen to what he had to say on his latest podcast on The Athletic.
The birdies in my ear that had talked about a deteriorating relationship with coaching, and I presume that Bruce Arians earlier in the process was what came to mind, that really yes, he could retire, but I think he is done playing for the Bucs. That was my impression. And I don't think there's a lot of places he would go. And frankly, he would need the Bucs' help because he's under contract to them. But the 49ers really make sense to me as a one-year finish it off situation, because you can't find a regret in Tom Brady's career other than he always wanted to play for the 49ers and didn't. Joe Montana was his hero. He's from there. The interesting component of this to me is that his agent, Don Yee, represents Garoppolo too. To me, by retiring from the Bucs and then saying, well, never say never, probably won't play again, but never say never, I think he's leaving the door open for one possible place only, and it's San Francisco.
that comes after Rich Ohrnberger, former NFL player, now Fox Sports Radio, said Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady were reportedly responsible for the entire offensive game plan. Him and Bruce Arians did not have a great relationship. By the end, it was strained because Bruce would take a red pen to that whole game plan. And he essentially said there was some, not a great relationship in the end between Bruce and Tom. And that's kind of what Sando says there, is that it was Bruce and Tom, and that he thinks Tom more so retired from the Bucs than the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, one thing in the Wickersham book that's pretty evident, it's come out over the years, is it's a pretty collaborative effort for all the, the dictatorship that is New England with Tom and the offensive game plan, right? He really became a Peyton Manning level figure there with just it wasn't you're going to do this. It was he was playing a part of it throughout the week.
One of the things in the book specifically about Tampa is that they were bad when it started, and it got better when they started doing the stuff Tom wanted to do offensively.
Like, ultimately, Bruce, who is a fantastic coach, we're nitpicking him because ultimately he is, a top 8-9 head coach in the NFL, but his operation's a little loosey-goosey. It just is. And, he hires, he has, to me, a Harbaugh quality. He hires really good assistants. Like, their assistant coaches are really, really good. And they were in Arizona, and they are, because he basically just got the band back together. My question is this. One thing that I can't get out of my mind, and I've mentioned this before, is he did have his dad sit down with Man of the Arena and cry talking about his son's career and retirement. Like, that's, does he give his dad, because ultimately he is producing this thing, does he want him doing that if he's even thinking about it? Like, what's the rush? You could put out the video in July. Like, they're not in any, ESPN will do whatever you tell them to do. So to me, that does keep this as a pretty big hypothetical still. But, and the other element that's like tangible, 2 years ago, Kyle told him no. Kyle told him to kick rocks. And the story that you and I have talked about before that ultimately came out, which was Tom gave Welker the nod or the inside information, like, bro, I want in. And then Kyle had
not
all
just
his,
I want in. If I will come to you guys, I won't even talk to anybody else.
I'll be a 49er tomorrow.
I'll be a 49er. I'm not going to do a tour. I'm not going to talk to anybody. You say the word, I'll be a Niner.
And he would have come cheap, right? I mean, hell, he went to Tampa for $50 million. Multiple years. I mean, that's basically what they were paying Jimmy. Remember, part of that story was then Kyle gives everyone in his offensive staff the project of just watch all Tom's games. Welker, McDaniel, LaFleur at the time, Kyle, I'm sure John Lynch, Adam Peters. And they kind of came to the consensus of like, what the hell is this guy's trending the wrong way and went with Jimmy. Like, that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom, I wouldn't say he's petty to Bill's level, but, we've all now seen 7 million documentaries on this fucking guy. He doesn't forget. And you and I talked about this before we hopped on here. Listen, things changed 2 years ago from the 49er standpoint. I would say Kyle Shanahan's proven to be pretty headstrong too. Is he just going to kiss his ass? I'm not saying he shouldn't. He should. But I don't know. I do just wonder, because that feels like everyone's going, if he wants to win, the thing that makes no sense with even the Miami element is Miami's not very good on offense. And this coach, we love him, and I think the internet loves him. There's a big difference between the internet loving you and he's never won a game. He's literally never called plays. So from a football standpoint, the Dolphins make no sense. The 49ers make a lot of sense. From a personal standpoint, that's where I want it to happen. We've stated this many times. I still am at the point where I'll be very, very surprised if there's like a tangible, like they're going to meet. I'd be like, fuck.
So first of all, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen when Kyle is in Cabo, because everything happens when Kyle is in Cabo. I'd forgotten this. We know the Stafford stuff happened while Kyle was in Cabo. He watched tape of Tom while he was in Cabo 2 years ago. So Cabo is where
he's probably there right now, don't you think?
It's where quarterback stuff doesn't happen for Kyle. The stuff that he wants to happen doesn't happen. To me, the relevant part of what, for me, the most relevant part of what Sando said was the Bruce Arians part. If Tom was on another team, if Tom was on the Niners, let's say 2 years ago, would he have walked away today? When I say today, I mean this year. Or would he be coming back for a third year on the 49ers? Like, to me, the Arians element makes you think that he might be coming back for a third year. He has said for years 45 is the goal, and he retired before he was 45. A guy who's very goal-oriented.
You want to preface it by saying that they had the same results, like they won a Super Bowl in the 49ers and they got bounced in the second round?
Won a Super Bowl, got bounced the second round, and, who knows? Maybe they win 2 Super Bowls. I don't know. Whatever it is that they do, the Arians part of it makes me think that Sando has something in that Tom was like, this exact thing, I can walk away from this before I was ready to walk away previously. Now, to your point on his dad, I don't think Tom retired with the intention to pull an okey doke on everybody and then come back.
Dad cried.
Yeah, I don't think it's about like, I'm going to fake a retirement. I just think he retired before he intended to for probably a variety of reasons. One being the Arians thing. One being Gisele's been trying to get him to retire for like 4 years. There's a clip in the book, I don't know if you've heard this part yet, where after they lose in the playoffs.
I'm at the part where Mangini and Bill fought at the.
You haven't gotten there yet, but there's a car ride after a game.
Fuck you, Bill!
Where Gisele is telling Tom she wants to do a thing where they like write down all of their regrets from the last year and tear them up and burn them and throw them into the fireplace. And Tom can't even think. Tom's like, what are you like? How he got the stories. One of them had to tell him the story, right? But Tom's basically like, I just want to think about football. I can't even talk about this right now. And Gisele's trying to like start the next chapter.
Regrets from life or like regrets from on the field?
Yeah, it's like a New Year's Eve thing. Like I want to put the kids to bed and then write down, I should have seen Gronk.
Tom's like, I want to get better on 2nd and 3 against all out left pressure from the left side, and then I'm better at it with the right side. And Gisele's like, what are you talking about?
So anyway, but now I'll bounce it back to you for you wanted to respond to something.
I already forgot.
Okay. I don't think Tom is plotting his return.
I know what I was saying is I think it's fair to say that 2020 they would have made the playoffs or whatever, but remember they had a million injuries that they would not like. The one thing, his Tampa team that won the Super Bowl, they were healthy and they were loaded. Even if they went 6-10, and a huge part of that was Mullins. Maybe the Niners could have got to 10-6. Maybe 9-7 with Tom. Obviously, they would have been better. I think it's fair to say they would have been 10-6 with Tom, but it would have been a struggle, and they were missing pieces. I mean, the fucking best defensive player tore his ACL like a third game of the season, remember? Kittle missed a ton of games. I mean, now, part of the reason Kittle missed some games, right, is because Jimmy overthrew him on the first play of the game. Jimmy gets guys hurt,
Gronk would have been on the team.
Gronk, you'd think. I think the Tampa one was a pretty easy transition.
I think it would have been on the team. But you're right. Tampa's very easy for Gronk.
Yeah. It's just no state income tax. Is he going to come out? Does he feel like he's
warm for his body?
He's going to live in Santa Clara.
I just think he would have played with Tom. I think he would have come back to play with Tom.
You feel if somehow, God, this would be awesome. I want to speak into this as Tom comes to the 49ers, Gronk is on the 49ers, because I don't expect
I said the other day, I think so, but I mean, now he's played 2 more years with Tom, and he won a ring with Tom. I think it's probably time for him to, I think he probably retires.
I do think Kyle would probably be interested, right?
I 1,000%. I was watching was it Super Bowl 52, Foles?
Yeah, probably, because this one was 56, so that was like 3 or 4 years ago.
The, Julie Ertz's husband makes some incredible catches in that game.
Well, he's became a Eagles. I mean, he that game is like one of the greatest performances in the history of the Eagles.
So Philly gets remembered. Yeah, John. He scores a touchdown later.
We had the game winner, right?
The game winner. But the 4th and 3 or whatever it was an incredible play by him and Foles. Foles has to evade the rush, makes an incredible throw. Ertz goes way up to get it as he's getting hit in the ribs.
Wasn't Foles kind of rolling to his left too?
Yes, it was an incredible play. And then they cut over to Doug Peterson, and Doug Peterson's like, might as well just be sitting in just nothing.
Dialed.
He's just hanging on the beach. I mean, he has no emotion. So anyway, that's a separate. But the point is, Ertz could be on the team too. I don't think he's about. I just think it's interesting that Sando identified
Ertz,
the area.
Edelman, Brady, just every single MJD. Got any snaps left? I mean, just get everyone from the Bear. Marshawn,
Marshawn's doing Manscaped. I just saw Manscaped ad with Marshawn. for the weed whacker. Is it an accident that Sando says what we all know at the end of that clip too, which is that Garoppolo and Tom have the same agent? Again, not new information. Don Yee, we all know this. But that's not a nothing piece of the puzzle. And when I say puzzle, I don't even mean get Tom to the Niners puzzle. I just mean Don Yee is going to know what the Niners think of everything.
But then I would say this, and this is where the Niners are going to get credit from Don Yee. They've been pretty good to Jimmy.
Yeah.
Just in terms of their support of him. I would say Kyle's support of him, despite his action with Trey Lance. Like, was there anyone more supportive than Jimmy Garoppolo than ultimately Kyle Shanahan? Maybe like behind the scenes screaming at him, but guy, he made him the starter the entire time.
Yeah.
I would say Kyle Shanahan, because ultimately words mean nothing. Like your support is playing time, and Kyle fucking kept going with him.
Right. I guess my hesitation is I don't think Kyle did it because he supports him. I just think Kyle was just going with what was best for the
100%. But ultimately, the support led to Jimmy keep playing and get some playoff games. Like I made him. And I think coaches with less juice might have pivoted faster. There was a time this year when he could have pivoted. We talked about it, and he didn't. Right. So ultimately, I'm with you. Like, he didn't do it just because he loves Jimmy Garoppolo, but the actions are ultimately what you get judged on.
Yeah, I just think there is enough stuff here that I don't dismiss this Tom Brady discussion as impossible and completely unlikely. It is unlikely. But it's not impossible. And there are enough pieces that if it were to happen, we'd look back and go, man, look at all. That's the thing. If it happened, we'd look back at all these things and go, there wasn't no warning. And Don Yee's involvement is one of the elements that I think we would point to.
I don't expect this to be something that lingers to the summer, because ultimately it's a new offense. I would think that Tom would want to spend some time with Kyle. Because if you're coming for one reason and one reason only, right? This might be my swan song. We're going to fucking win this whole thing. I'm not coming to just play for the Niners for a year, get 9 or 10 wins, right? I'm going to come to try to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I think you're coming to play at 45, that too. Like it's a one and done Super Bowl.
But you're going to want to have success. And to me, success would equal spending time around the Niners and the offense, right?
Right.
So that, and OTAs, I mean, that's something that would be in a month. Now, the Niners are in no rush necessarily. Like, they don't need to do anything with Trey besides getting rid of Jimmy. We'll talk about that in a second. But there is some of like, okay, we only have $5 million. And you can say all you want about like, it's not that big a deal with Tom just cool with playing for $2 million. Maybe he would be. Now, obviously, to come back, there's just some logistics. They need to make a trade. Would they just fall out, cut him? There are just several pieces that I think maybe we'd even find a little bit more the next couple weeks, because the Bucs might want to do some stuff too with their cap. Free agency, I think we'd know more like at the start of free agency of like, oh, there's some validity here. Or like, no, Tom's thought about it now for a month. He's out.
So Carson asked this question on the stream. On Twitter? What else is there to talk about with Tom Brady rumors? It seems so unlikely the Bucs would give the Niners a Super Bowl QB just because. It's a lot of people have brought that up. It's a legitimate counter. I don't think it's an issue. I think the Bucs are going to be obligated to do. You're not going to hold Tom Brady hostage, and I think the Bucs probably will feel you do right by part of Tom Brady coming to play, be your quarterback, is you do right by him. When he tells you I want to get traded, you trade him. Yeah.
I mean, if Tom Brady says I want to trade to the Niners, I'm coming back, they will trade him to the 49ers. Now, they'd have to agree on some compensation. Would you just trade him for a third and have, that'd be it.
How about 6 thirds?
Yeah, you wouldn't do that.
The Niners have them literally over the next 2 years.
To me, the price is like, hey, we'll give you one of our thirds. Give us Tom Brady.
Yeah. Yeah. But you have 6 thirds. You could afford to.
That would be insane.
When are OTAs?
I just think they usually get going. People start reporting to start doing some workouts in like early April.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no on the field till after the draft, obviously.
Looking back, Brady was visiting Byron Leftwich in April of 2020. Remember the story that he went to the wrong house? That was April of 2020.
You have time in April.
So my point being, like, the two previous, maybe 2 or 3 previous years in New England, Tom was kind of out until he had to be there, and even he was skipping workouts. That's
the Niners. I would say the Niners are lucky that whenever they trade Jimmy, the quarterback is on the roster. So like they're not waiting on Tom one way or the other, I would say. And they're going to just have a lot more inside info. Why? Because they're going to be working with, I don't know, Tom's agent during this trade.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, to put a bow on it for today, I don't think Mike Sando just talks the talk.
It's out there for sure in a tangible way. I think in the NFL, people believe it.
John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about our friends at ButcherBox, baby. ButcherBox.com/ham. Where right now, when you go to ButcherBox.com/ham, you get 2 pounds of ground beef for free in every order for the life of your membership. 2 pounds of ground beef for free in every order for the life of your membership. At ButcherBox.com/ham. No, I don't think you can.
We have a mutual friend, Brian Hawkins, who gets ButcherBox. He likes it. You know why? No antibiotics or added hormones. It's hard. For you and I aren't great cookers, but those of you that are listening that cook with meat, there are specific things you look for in your meat, different qualities, and the ButcherBox meat quality is fantastic. Each box contains between 8 to 14 pounds of meat, depending on the box you choose. I mean, we've had so many shipments sent to us over the years of just chicken to ribs to ground beef.
I had ButcherBox steak last night.
How good was it?
Very good.
And it's packed fresh and shipped frozen for your convenience. When it shows up, it's in the frozen deal. It's incredible. It's easy. The website is very, very easy to use. You customize your own box with one of theirs. Either way, you get exactly what you want. This is your chance, guy, to never have to shop for ground beef again. That's right. ButcherBox is giving new members free ground beef for life. So sign up ButcherBox.com/ham to get 2 pounds of ground beef for free in every order for life.
Not to
of
mention,
your membership.
Not to mention
go to ButcherBox.com/ham to claim the deal.
Sorry to interrupt there. Not to mention all the other good stuff you get, like the 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, wild-caught seafood, and much, much more. 8 to 14 pounds of meat, depending on the box you choose in every box. That's enough for 24 individual meals. ButcherBox.com/ham. All right, how about this little prediction? Tim Kawakami in The Athletic predicts the Niners will trade Jimmy Garoppolo to the Steelers for a 4th-round pick this year and a conditional 4th-round pick next year that could become a 2nd. What do you think of that potential trade?
I don't think the 49ers, I don't know. You think they want to do something that doesn't come to fruition for a year? Or do you think that's just going to be their lack of leverage with Jimmy Garoppolo that, listen, we'll give you something to do the deal now, but we are not giving you a second-day pick till he proves for us that he's a good player, right? Because Carson Wentz ultimately wasn't based on statistics or production or whether you made the playoffs or not. It was just based on the 75%. So maybe the Niners... You could argue the Carson Wentz deal, while the compensation with Carson Wentz because his high end was higher, even though he had struggled, you're going to get more for Carson Wentz like the Eagles did last year than you would for Jimmy Garoppolo right now. But I do think teams would be like, that is the precedent for this, and we're just going to move it back. Obviously, if Jimmy's our starting quarterback 100% of the time, we're not giving you a first-round pick no matter what. But could it be something that, you give us a 3rd now and then a 4th next year, but that 4th goes to a 2nd if you make the playoffs and he starts 15 out of 17 games or something? Or, it's probably easier with a snap percentage. So 75 feels a little like I would be 85% of the snaps.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, I also think both sides can make arguments for why. Let's just use the Steelers because that's Tim's prediction. The Steelers can make a great argument for why they shouldn't give more than a 4th up front, and the Niners can make a great argument for why they should. I think the argument you can make if you're the Niners is this, and I'll make it just for the sake of argument. No, if you give us a 2nd, you guys went to the playoffs last year with Ben Roethlisberger. If you give us a 2nd, I know it feels like a lot, but imagine how much further you could get if Jimmy Garoppolo is your quarterback instead of Ben Roethlisberger. And I think the Steelers would say, yeah, but he could play 6 games. He could be hurt. The one thing with Ben, he gets hurt, but he always comes back. He always plays. And
he came back in a Raider game where he missed the entire half.
He came back in the game. That's right. And the Niners would counter and be like, oh, Jimmy came back too. And Jimmy played hurt this year. I think the problem if you're acquiring Jimmy is not that you might overpay a little bit for a quarterback, because everyone overpays a little bit for a quarterback. It's that you could overpay and then have him not be available. So I do think it does make a lot of sense. I think the best way for the Niners to get, say, a 2nd-round pick is to have it be a conditional pick. I think it's going to be hard to just get a second-round pick up front or whatever the best pick they could get.
My point is, are you better off just because I think a lot of teams are going to be like, hey, man, we'll give you a 4th or a 5th and do that, where they realize it easily could just turn into a 5th and a 4th, or something. If you're the Niners, like, hey, can you just get a 3rd, get him out of there, and just move on and not have to wait? Because I think the contingency on Jimmy Garoppolo, like we had talked about Carson Wentz, the difference is he hadn't missed a game in 2 years. He got knocked out of the playoff game against Seattle, and then the following year, he got benched, but he played in all the games. And even this year, I give him credit. Remember, he had the foot thing the first day at camp, but remember, he was back. Like, he ended up coming back, and the only couple games that he missed this year, if I remember correctly, were, I don't even know if he did. Remember, it was the COVID thing, and they changed the rule by that, like, week 15 or 16. I don't think they started another quarterback this season. So, I bet the Eagles felt pretty good about him playing the games, and it wasn't dependent on wins and losses or production. Where Jimmy, it's like, I would not feel good about him playing in 17 games. So the contingency of him missing games will probably be pretty high. Would I just take what I get now and move on? It's it's back to the real estate analogy. This isn't oceanfront property, so it's like if you can get $100,000 over asking, just take it and move on instead of like trying to like get really cute with it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it's dependent. And so what you're saying is you're just okay taking at worst 2 4th-round picks, right? That's the worst.
What I would be shooting for is like get the 3rd and get out.
Well, I agree, and I do think part of the
if I get a second-day pick guy, which second I'm not expecting, if I can get a 3rd-round pick up front and not have to worry about any of the other bullshit that is going to be much more contingent based, I'm out. I'm good.
Yeah, you'd rather do a 3rd than a 4th and a second 4th in 2023 that could become a 2nd, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
You would take a 3rd in the bush over a 4th and maybe a 2nd, also in the hand.
Well, I could see it being something. I could see it seeing something like a 4th, and we'll give you a 5th next year. But if we make the playoffs, and he plays a bunch of games, we'll also give you a 3rd, or something just kind of.
Well, but Kawakami's prediction was a 2nd, 4th that becomes a 2nd. I think that the other quarterback happenings are part of the dynamic here. And one thing Sando kind of just mentioned in a separate part of his podcast was, would Bruce Arians want Carson Wentz? Because if Bruce Arians wants Carson Wentz, the Colts might prefer Jimmy Garoppolo. Would Bruce prefer Carson or Jimmy?
Colts, man. My take on the Carson Wentz scenario is they're trying to get him to take a pay cut, and they're trying to float this to kind of really kind of put the screws to him a little bit. Why would they even fuck with that? Like, guy, they were a game away from making the playoffs.
Yeah, they lost to the Jags.
I mean, Jimmy lost some shitty teams too.
I know.
What the fuck's the difference between them? I saw Carson Wentz beat him.
Well, yeah, he has a higher ceiling.
These musical chairs of these type guys feel a little bit like. I do not expect Carson Wentz to be on a different team next year.
So I think we can remove the Bucs as a Jimmy Garoppolo destination, given Arians. Denver as a Jimmy Garoppolo destination is real. I think football team is real. I don't think he'd want to go play for the Texans. And I think
I had the thought today on a little walk that if I was Jimmy Garoppolo and Don Yee, I would say, listen, I'm not going to the Commanders. Even Ron's a high-level guy, and I would play for Ron Rivera, but not in that franchise. I do think you could just – if you and I were in Don Yee's camp, like we were work for Don Yee, and we were sat at a table, us three. We're like his 2 minions. And he goes, Middlekauff, what do you think? Commanders, they want him. They'd be in. I'd be like, I would not waive my no-trade clause there. And I like Ron Rivera. I'm not fucking around with that.
Well, yeah, but it's not about necessarily just no trade. They can trade him later, even though I don't think they'd force it on him. It's not just about no trade. It's also about, like, they're gonna want to restructure probably your contract, and you can also exert some will that way.
My point is this. If we had a couple options and it's all relatively
I know. I just
win-win.
I think we have to say that about no trade because then people jump on the like.
You're saying his no trade is not Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson. It's not. It ends.
Yes, but I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying if you and I do the show and we say his no trade, people come at us and go, well, his no trade's going to expire, and my response is, but he's going to have $27 million. The team acquiring him is going to want to restructure. Jimmy is still going to have power after his no trade expires. So that's the only reason I interrupted.
And this is not 19.
I do think Jimmy has some say, no matter pre or post no trade. That's the point.
Because this is not 1992 Al Davis Raiders. He's just going to do whatever he wants. This is modern day NFL where you're scratching other people's back. They're scratching yours. You're not going to fuck Jimmy Garoppolo. Like he's not getting fucked in this deal.
Right.
They are not trading him to somewhere he does not want to get traded. Part of it is if the no trade didn't exist, I would say, yeah, probably not. But it does, and they're working together. And I think Jimmy earned respect this year with them. It's going to be a win-win thing. So my recommendation would be if there are equal saves, if like that's the place that's going to give you an extra $30, $40 million, yeah. But if we, assuming that there are a couple equal opportunities with the Denver, with the Pittsburgh, with your Indy scenario, under
New
no
Orleans,
circumstances,
New Orleans.
we are not, Commanders are not on my list. And because of that guy, like there's always something else there, guy. It becomes not about football with that place.
Yeah, but there just aren't that many. If Rodgers is staying put, there's the Broncos, there's the Saints, there's the football team, there's the Texans. I don't think he's going to the Texans for the same reasons you just said about the football team.
I think they like their quarterback a lot.
Yeah, if you're here's the other thing. If you're them, why would you do that? Davis Mills, you just took with the second or third pick of the third round. He's physically more talented. You're not doing that. That's a good point. So, I don't think there's that many places. So the Steelers to me make a lot of sense. And to me, a fourth and a conditional fourth is kind of what you end up with when you're not shopping your player for just the most you can get from him, because either you're trying to do right by the guy or the guy has some power. So you don't really end up with a third if you're only sending him places he wants to go, right? Kind of like the Niners didn't have to trade a first for Trent Williams. They got to kind of dictate terms. Trent did.
That's ultimately my point with the no trade people freaking out. Like it's going to be now. Trent had the juice on the skins and his contract. This one is a little different, but they are just. You're right. If the Commanders are his only option, he's going to get traded to the Commanders. But I just think there's going to be at minimum multiple. options.
No.
Whether it's the Saints, whether it turns out. I think the Packers would be in play if fucking Rodgers could still. They're going to need a quarterback, and Jordan Love stinks.
I do think the Packers could be in play also, but wouldn't that be
He knows the offense.
If
right?
the Packers move off of Aaron because Jordan Love, but don't go to, I forget about because, and then don't go to Jordan Love, that would be pretty stunning.
But part of them moving off Aaron is going to be him saying, I'm leaving.
Yeah,
and they don't
100%.
have a choice.
Yeah. Them capitulating.
I don't think they have a choice. Even though I heard someone say they truly, like, based on the contract, like, it was more of a handshake deal. It's not written in there that, like, you remember Brady's thing, he became the free agent. That is not the case with Aaron.
That's right.
But it's like they gave him a wink handshake, like, we'll take care of you. Well, we'll see.
Somebody in the chat said that Keyshawn Johnson said Jimmy to the Raiders? Is that a made-up thing?
Well, I mean, they would have to trade Derek Carr. And then I think if Derek Carr was traded, how would the speculation not start immediately with a guy that coached him?
It would make a ton of sense. DM on the stream says Raiders are trading Carr to the Saints or Steelers, in my opinion.
Well, I would say that would be, and there are going to be some good, like, do you know the best stories that are going to come out of the Combine? And, usually it's like 60-40. It's like 60, all the free agent buzz, but also, like, Trey Lance killed it in the interviews.
And like 2% seen at St. Elmo's, Doug Peterson, and
I think this year it's like 90% free agency shit because like no one cares about the offensive tackle from North Carolina State. Like I'm sorry, no one gives a shit. Beside people in the NFL that might draft this guy in the top 5, but like it's going to be Watson, it's going to be Rodgers. If a Carr, like actually, they've listened because here's the thing. If Carr is on the block, unlike Jimmy, Carr's value is, would they get 2 1s and a 2? How would they not? That's what Jamal Adams and Jalen Ramsey went for. He's a quarterback. Now, it's a little different just because it's a double whammy. Those guys had to be paid. It was all their first contracts. Derek would have to be paid, and his contract dwarfs all these guys.
Right. Yep.
So you would be trading this and then probably extending a little Khalil Mack style, extending the moment the trade happens, his extension.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still am at the point where let me know when Josh McDaniels signs a $140 million deal with a guy that he's never spent a minute with besides bullshitting in the offseason.
Well, one thing I wondered about the quote unquote leak, the story, the Vinny Bonsignore story, that it would be, he wrote that, right? It wasn't just the PFF tweet. It was, he wrote 5 years, $200 million is probably about what it would be.
And if but all you got to do is look at Dak Prescott and kind of just, that's, right?
Right, but what I'm saying is, does he write that in part because Mark Davis says that to him? And does Mark Davis put that out there in part because he wants everyone to know how expensive it would be to re-sign? When everyone's like, Mark, just re-sign Derek. What are you doing?
But wouldn't you say with the quarterback market, it's pretty clear, like a starting quarterback, what they go for? Like, I think Dak Prescott kind of opened everyone's eyes. Like, Dak Prescott got $40 million a year.
Well, yeah, but it's the point of the story is not for us to just know what we already know. I'm saying, why would somebody in the Raiders tell Vinny that's what they think it would be?
Could it be Derek's people telling him, like, that's what we want also?
It could be, but what would be the value in that? Just setting the bar high, and then when you take less, you say, hey, look, I took less for the team? Could be that.
Didn't they kind of get to hang their hat on, like we gave them a little discount last time?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
I'm just saying, there's a reason somebody says it. So what's the reason? Is it Derek Carr's people setting the bar high so he takes less and it looks like he took less for the team? Or is it the Raiders wanting it out there? This is how expensive it would be for us.
My take would be Derek's like, this is what we cost. Then the Raiders yeah, we know. We fucking follow the NFL.
Yeah. To me, the only reason, the point for the Raiders would be to put it out there so that they can, if they were to trade him, people go, well, we get it. We don't think he's worth $200 million. I'm just saying, anytime it gets said, it's being said for a reason.
But he would immediately sign that contract, so you would just know.
He would sign that contract with somebody else?
Yeah, like he's going to get what he's going to get.
But these things don't always, people say things to try and help set up their side ahead of time sometimes. Right.
I just think it's kind of well known, like a discount would be $35 million a year, and the going rate's 38 to 42. Like it or not, it sucks. I mean, I don't want to pay that for Derek Carr. I would love him at, like, to me, 28. I've said it about Dak Prescott. At 28, 30, I don't, relative to the mark, I don't like paying a premium for non-premiums. Like, Derek's a really good player.
Right.
He was an incredible value this year at $20 million a year. You would have been able to stomach it moving forward at 28 given the cap. I don't care that the cap goes up every year. I can't pay him $40 million a year. I can't do it and expect to compete for the playoffs.
Understood. I'm interested in why the information is information. Because you're right, it's not debatable. But there's a lot of things. I
think there's a pretty good comp between those two. I think they have a lot of similarities.
Dak and Derek? Yeah, I think it is a good comp. Derek's older, right?
Derek's a little older. Both have had a major injury. Both, are just high character. You don't have to worry about getting in trouble. Work hard, give you everything they have. Both feels like, you desire a little more. But both I've seen them play really well, right?
Did Dak get his contract after Mike McCarthy came on board?
I think so, because remember one of the big stories was like, Mike, have you talked to him yet? And someone was like, this is a little weird. Could they be trading him?
Mike's like, sorry, I've been trying to hoodwink Jerry for the last 2 weeks. Haven't gotten around to Dak yet.
Yeah, looking back when Mike said he didn't watch every game, I get it. Like, if you had just been fired, and you're like, I had another job. I had a lot going on. Like, you had spent the whole year, quote unquote, watching tape. Like, what the fuck
told everybody you were in the bunker.
Yeah, you had Peter King do this long article about the bunker. What were you guys doing? What were you doing? Just screwing around. At least, like, Doug Peterson has been pretty open and honest. Like, I just spent a lot of time with my family. I was with my grandchildren. His brother had cancer. Like, he didn't fake, like, I was watching every snap of the Jack just in case I got this opportunity. Right? No, he's like, this year was very valuable for me. My 20 years, 30 years as a player and a coach, getting away, being with my just perspective that I didn't even know. Now, I missed it, but, like, he didn't claim, like, I spent all 4 job openings I wanted in that. I broke down every single one of their sequences in every single game.
Also, it's like I broke everything down, and then I immediately came back and gave Kellen more play calling duties. Like, so what are you studying? Clock management?
I would also say that shows the Dallas kind of conundrum of, like, Jerry still controls a lot of it. It's not his choice, right? If it was truly an NFL team, more than likely Kellen Moore's fired, like when Mike gets the job.
Right. Without even much consideration.
Yeah, it's one of those where coaches like, you have a meeting with them like, I've heard good things, but I already told Joe Philbin if I get this job, I'm getting the band back together and my buddy McAdoo.
Joe Philbin.
But that's his crew.
I know,
Philbin, McAdoo.
I know.
You just roll with your crew,
Dylan on the stream says, I partied with Juwan Jennings in Knoxville this weekend. Dude can get down with the best of them. Well, there you go. There's a great insight and an update.
It's got to be a pretty good feeling after you're like, where you're still close to their age. Like, because once you're like Andrew Whitworth, just spent 3 weeks in LSU getting down. Like, it like ends once you probably get over 30. But like when you're in your early, 24, 25, but it's pretty well established. Like, this guy starts for the Niners. You're like, I'm back, bitches.
He probably has some friends, probably has a buddy on the basketball team still.
Yeah, maybe like a freshman that he hit it off with, like his last year is now like a junior on the squad. So he's like, hey, bro, we're throwing a party. Like, come on over.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
They weren't even home this week, though. I would have seen them at a basketball game, probably holding up like I don't know.
We see Debo went to the women's. South Carolina must be pretty good at women's.
I did see that. Debo had like takes. I saw a clip. He had like takes on the team.
Well, I think they must have a star.
They do.
He clearly knows.
Incredible. I went down this rabbit hole the other day and watched the Debo Samuel story, but it was back when he was at South Carolina, it was pre-draft, pre-everything. It's pretty good. It's a good 9-minute watch on YouTube. South Carolina's official
I actually
YouTube page.
I had this thought. Do you know what's crazy about, I think, sometimes college sports is hype can really grow, right? And it did I think Clowney is a good example where if you live through Clowney's college experience, it's like, this guy could just be, he's going to be like Khalil Mack meets J.J. Watt meets Reggie White, and he'll just be all-time South Carolina's just like poster child, right? You would just be like, that's South Carolina football, right? This guy represents South Carolina. It feels like Debo's already passed him. It's like when we did something sweet, and then you watch Debo, you're like, not only is he past him, you would want Debo around. Like, yeah. I just watched him do that interview on the College Game Day women's set. It's like, God, this fucking guy's likable.
Mr. Corey on the stream says, book is out on Kinlaw. What book? You don't have to game plan for him.
Yeah, I just think defensive linemen can be a little more hit or miss, just in general.
All-Star game, John. NBA All-Star game was on Sunday night. Are you mad at it?
Would have to watch to be.
A lot of people are mad at it.
I think
everyone's mad at every All-Star game.
Why I had a buddy that I was like, "Hey, you watching this?" He's like, "Is it worse than the NFL All-Star game or Pro Bowl, which is the All-Star game, obviously?" And I said, well, "It's the same. They are the exact same thing. Guys just stand there on defense. In basketball, I came to grips with last night. It's easy to be. One thing I've noticed in my YouTube rabbit holes over the years, you can go to any generation of music. 70s, type in whoever you want. Just type in like Eagles acoustic, Beatles acoustic. You go to the fucking 80s, like Def Leppard, right? Just whoever, over the years. Metallica, Dr. Dre. The majority, on the most famous people, the comments are like, this is when music was right. Like, they just don't, like Bob Seger. You just go to, like, turn the page, Bob Seger, like 1977. Like, they just don't, I still remember being a kid. They don't make this shit. It's all negative. Like, this is not what it sounds like anymore. And I'm not going to be that. I always think like, no, it's just, this was good then and things change and music, you like this. You can like other stuff. But the comments are always really, really negative on the present, reflecting on that video from the past. And I think these All-Star games, like, listen, it does feel the NBA All-Star games when we were a kid were clearly not quite like an NBA game, but they were closer to the sport than what we're witnessing now. And the Pro Bowl, I don't even remember watching Pro Bowls. I vividly remember watching NBA All-Star games. And they would always, even like late 90s, by the time like Kobe and T-Mac, some of the off-the-backboard dunk type shit that you would never see in an NBA game that would happen. But it did feel still basketball-y. That's dead. But I'm cool. Like, it's not Harlem Globetrotters, but it's clearly it's an exhibition just like the Pro Bowl, which is just there to be consumed if you want. If not, turn the fucking channel. Like, one thing that's bothering me about, quote unquote, the cancel culture stuff, but just the take of like, we need to take this down. Listen, if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. In what world do you think any of us normal adults need someone else to tell me what I can watch or what I won't watch? I will just figure it out for myself. I watched 2 minutes of that game and was like, I'm out. Like, I'm out. I can choose. But I think most people now, and again, social media, kind of the world that can become, it's so easy to be like, this fucking sucks. And just turn on a movie.
So I agree, because I did the same thing. I watched another basketball game, and I watched them. I don't even know what, probably The Office or something. I watched the USC Washington State game, which was a good game. I had some of that on, and I did some of the TBS, which was like the Manning cast version, right? It wasn't the broadcast. It was
like
Charles
Draymond doing
Lopez
sidelines,
screwing around. And it is not the game does suck, right? Like the game does suck.
It's terrible.
And I think your point is complaining about how it sucks and wishing that it was something that it used to be is like when you're 45 wishing that you could just party all night and wake up the next day without a hangover. Well, those days are gone. You're not 25 anymore. It's over. There's no going back. I think what it used to be was like a pickup game, to try and define it. It used to be like a pickup basketball game. And now if anybody played on the pickup courts the way they play in that game, you'd be like, what are we doing here? I'm out. Guys, will somebody please play some defense?
That's a great way to describe it. A pickup game with the sweetest basketball players ever.
You used to, because I thought that last night. I turned it on. I'm like, at the end of the day, these are the greatest players in the world. And I saw a transition alley-oop 360 dunk, and I was like, that was cool. But then you watch long enough, and there's not even pretend defense. Like there used to be pretend. There was a moment where DeMar DeRozan got matched up one-on-one with, who would it have been? One of his teammates. And I was like, okay, like maybe these guys will go at it for a second.
Levine.
Yeah, exactly. Levine hit a 3 on him. DeRozan gets it on the other end. And Levine is like kind of stuck. He can't not play defense because DeRozan's kind of backing him down. And so he has to play defense for like a half second. And he kind of does. And I was like, all right, like that. But, there's the one clip of Steph hitting a 40-foot 3 is he does like 7 side steps, does not even dribble. I mean, it's outrageous. And it's baseball. You told me somebody tweeted this, and I've said this for years.
It was Josh Donaldson.
Josh Donaldson. He's right. Baseball, you play for, no pitcher wants to just give up a home run. And all they have to do is pitch to a batter or for an inning and hit. Baseball batting is fantastic because you just sit there. The pitcher just throws it hard and you try to hit it. There's no like, I'm going to throw away this AB. The game still matters to the guys, but there's not the threat of physical injury in baseball.
And the only reason you're sweating is because it's hot outside.
It's hot out. But there's not the risk of physical injury in baseball. There is that you could get hit by the pitch. But in all guys don't just, there aren't 50 ACL tears in a baseball season the way there are in a football season, right?
Yeah, no.
So there's playing hard. There's no additional risk that comes with playing hard in baseball.
It's a big deal in baseball when a guy tears his ACL. Right?
Yeah, and you can play baseball at 75% because watch baseball in June. Most guys are playing it at 75%, right?
Yeah, I've just come to like the Pro Bowl. I agree with everyone that's hating that it sucks. It's terrible, and just like the NBA is really, really bad, but it's fine. Like it's someone is there for someone, and if you want to enjoy it, enjoy it. If not, I will not watch anymore. And it was the first time. I've always kind of lied. I'm like, God, that was really terrible. And I watched a lot. I honestly probably Shaq gave this kind of cool story to start it off. I had it on about meeting all those guys and being on, and you just like, it really hit me. Like, there's a reason this guy. We talk a lot about like Michael Jordans and the Tiger Woods and the Tom Brady's. I think Shaq's almost an underrated how fucking famous and big of a deal Shaquille O'Neal is. Like, wouldn't you say he's on the short, like, top 10 in our lifetime through 35, 36 years of our life of just, like, Jordan, Tiger, Ken Griffey? Like, you could put Shaq, like, if we probably listed it out, he would compete to be, like, top 5. Just how famous he is, and also just how unique he is, right? How big he is, how loving he is. And there's just kind of this, in this weird way, a blue-collar nature to him. And that's, I thought Coward gave a pretty good opening rant today about Michael Jordan and how he got the biggest applause last night and how he's by far still the most famous NBA player, even though he hasn't played in 25 years, 20 plus years. And there's this relatability to him, even though he's not a relatable person, that I think that generation, just in general, like when I see those guys, I was like, God, I don't know. Maybe it was I was a kid when I was growing up, but the way they operated, the way they acted. I don't know. I mean, I miss them. I mean, I do. But yeah, the game. It's just not for me anymore. But there's nothing wrong with that. Just like there's a lot of music. This is probably just not for me, and that doesn't mean the music's terrible. And I see that a lot on YouTube. Like
that's a great take, and it sounds really good. But I disagree. I think it's bad that your All-Star game that was once something that everyone had to watch, no one has to watch anymore. That's not good.
Well, I was out at Sushi on Saturday night.
Because the fact is that the Pro Bowl was never really like that, but the All-Star game in the NBA was.
Well, and a huge defining moment for them was Saturday night in the All-Star weekend. If for any sports fan, right?
Right.
And I wasn't super locked in, but I saw some of the reaction definitely the next day. It was on I was at a restaurant getting drunk and eating sushi, and it was on in the background. And clearly it was really, really bad. But you could argue like the dunk contest, like eventually you're just going to run out of dunks humans can do. Like part of the home run derby, it's not like, can this guy now hit it 855 feet? It's just how many home runs can you hit? The dunk contest, after they're only, I just argue like they can't do any more dunks. Like they've done them all. So it's, are the top guys included anymore? No, they're not. So that's fucked. You're not going to have the star recognition. When Juan Toscano Anderson did he win it? Maybe Obi Toppin.
Couldn't tell you.
But like the famous people don't do it, and there just aren't any dunks to do. It's over. So can you find another pitch? I don't know.
DJ Khaled in the skills competition, I would say, is the best highlight I saw from the weekend.
When I looked up and I just thought it was cool from a human element was one of the skill competitions that you have to do with your teammates. All the Antetokounmpos did together. I'm like, that's a pretty cool moment. Just all three of the brothers. Cool. Like that was cool. Even though I didn't care the reaction, All-Star Weekend is. I think that the dunk contest is over because there's no more dunks to do.
Yeah,
they've done them all.
But it's been over.
But I mean,
it's not over now.
I think it was like widely agreed that this was by far the worst one, and they've been bad now for years.
Yeah. Yeah, it stopped being must-see TV a long time ago. Like, to me, that's the line. It's not, was this the worst? It stopped being must-see TV a long time ago.
But wouldn't you say that...
Like the NFL draft, the NBA lottery, I'd say those are like events that are fun and are still fun. The dunk contest stopped being must-see TV a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could argue the NBA's fallen, before. I'm not
but that's a separate conversation. I mean, absolutely. But I'm just saying, like, every year we declare, this is the year I'm never watching again. It's like, well, the first year you had that conversation is when it was over.
It was truly my first year of ever, like, I didn't really watch a second.
And I do think there's a part of it.
I was proud of myself.
I think there's a part of it that's not even game related. Like there is just a natural, this is one of the things I think that helps baseball a little in this sense is like, everybody across the country can watch the stars. That's actually all you watch, right? Like if you watch the NBA, you see all these guys all the time. You don't need to, once upon a time, you just didn't get to see everybody the same way. You weren't watching League Pass. There weren't highlights all the time. You might only get to see Steph Curry a handful of times. And maybe like, you remember it was like Sports Center, the highlights. I get to watch 2 minutes of Steph. That's what it would have been like if it was Steph back in the day.
I would say another huge element has been like, I wonder what it will look like. Michael Jordan passing it to Charles Barkley, getting an alley-oop from David Robinson. Now, like, that would be a team. It'd be
that's true.
So that's it's like, I wonder what it looks like. LeBron James, Anthony Davis to Russell Westbrook. You mean the Lakers, right? I mean, a lot of these super teams have just kind of changed the game a little bit that way. With just a lot of players playing with each other. Now, historically, like when we were kids, guys would get together when they were like, it was done. Be like a couple 35-year-olds be like, this is sad. Now it's like it happens in their prime. Like that's the playoffs.
John, great idea here on the stream from Red Eye. How about a drunk contest? Instead of a dunk contest.
Just watch them like gamble, or you can just do something stupid. You could argue, people are like, just have the NFL do a skills competition. No, they get 6.5 million people to watch them play tag football, so they're gonna play tag football. We'll see when the ratings come out for the NBA. I bet it'll be kind of low.
I do like a skills competition for basketball. I've watched that thing in the past because it's timed, and so when something's timed, like you try, to beat a time, like you have to run. Like there's a basic part of sports that's like people don't run. People aren't running.
I would say it would be pretty telling if whenever the ratings come out on these two, it's like if it's a historically low rating. Because as just a consumer, there was nothing on television these 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Like you were not competing against anything. Because all the college basketball was earlier.
Holiday weekend though, right? So your people just like already are already dialed in to be out off the couch doing something, maybe.
Yeah.
Going to the snow, something like that. I don't know. That's
But
what some people in my text messages are doing. But
I would say Saturday and Sunday night people are at, Saturday night maybe, but Sunday night, I don't know. Maybe in the snow.
John, let's tell the people about our friends at Indeed. Indeed.com/hammer. Right now, you get a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post only at Indeed.com/ham. Just like the NFL Combine ahead. Everyone's trying to make a championship run. Nothing matters more than finding and hiring the best team. With Indeed, you have the power to build a dynasty by hiring more MVPs faster.
Do you know that Indeed, guy, delivers 4 times more hires than all their job sites combined?
Wow.
According to Talent Nest 2019. Join more than 3 million businesses. So if you're listening to this right now and you have a small business, if you have a big business, you have any sort of business, worldwide, you can use Indeed to hire great talent and do it fast. So start hiring right now. We're all looking for people to help us out right now. Moving forward, 2022, world's going to change in this decade, the 2020s. Can't wait. With a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/ham. Offer valid through March 31st. Go to Indeed.com/ham to claim your $75 job credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/ham.
Indeed saves you time. You can message, you can schedule, you can interview top talent seamlessly, all in one place. So it's easy to connect with all your applicants. No installations of anything extra. The virtual interviews work right from your browser, so you're saving yourselves headaches, no downloads, no plugins, no purchases. You do it all in one place with Indeed. Plus, Indeed helps star applicants shine with over 135 assessment tests from cooking to coding. You're going to find the best people for your job faster. So make sure you're hiring MVPs, like John said. Do it with the #1 job site in the world. More total visits than any other job site, according to ComScore. Indeed.com/ham. Right now. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Terms and conditions apply.
Yep.
Did you say terms and conditions apply?
I didn't. I just can't leave that out.
No. All right. Just want to make sure I wasn't double booking. Terms and conditions apply.
No, you just always got to have terms and conditions apply. The people be honest and terms and conditions apply.
Terms and conditions apply. I don't know if terms and conditions apply is proper.
I hope to get an email once to be like, you guys said terms and conditions apply. That doesn't count.
Well, did you hear about the Catholic priest in Arizona? Did you see that story like a week ago?
Did it have something to do with young boys?
No. Well, yes, but no, not that kind of story. Apparently, for 20 years, I'm Jewish, so I don't. What's the thing where you put the water on the head and it
baptize?
Yes. They invalidated 20 years of his baptisms.
What did he do?
He inadvertently changed one word in the baptism ceremony. Instead of saying I and then blah, 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 he said we and blah, 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 blah. And the Pope, apparently that's not the proper script. You got to follow the script to a T. Some visiting, priest.
Dignitary.
Yeah, was just there and happened to see it and, turned him into Roger Goodell. And 20 years of baptisms invalidated.
Well, how did they have film, or did he just admit, like, I've been saying we the whole time?
Yeah, he's like, they said the thing you said that's not proper. Have you been saying this for a while? And then they said, yeah, and maybe they checked some old tape or asked some people, and he's like, out of commish.
He can make goods, or
I don't know. Can you do like a Zoom baptism if you're like 20 now, and it's like, oh my God, my baptism from 20 years ago, no good.
That sucks. Did you see the guy? That's pretty nuts. Can you imagine the amount of like dudes our age that are like, yeah, man, I don't give a shit. Like I'm good.
Well, yeah, but their moms are not happy about it.
No, that's true. Yeah, some people. I did see a headline today. Maybe it was by CNBC. Like, millennials are the least religious group in the history of the world. Maybe it was America. It's like, is religion in trouble? Like, yeah, probably. Most people I know ain't churchgoers. The dude the cross country skier that had frostbite on his penis. You see that story going viral? It's the second time that it happened. It's like whatever the long cross country race is, it's called like the slow something. It's like, like 50 miles, whatever. It's long. And you're on those little skinny skis where you're basically walking, so you're not even going very fast. No downhill, all uphill and flat, so it takes you forever. Wherever he was in China must have been really cold. Penis froze.
Did he pull it out to go to the bathroom on the side, and then there was a little...
I think I saw a quote that he was in extreme pain and knew he had some trouble. I don't know if they were... You remember when some of the guys in the Seattle-Minnesota game, they got a little... It was a Cam Chancellor, got a little frostbite or something on his foot, and they were able to... Wasn't that big a deal, but I think it was one of those, like a frostbite scare. Penis survived, but had to be pretty cold, man. Had to be pretty cold.
Oh, my God.
There's probably nothing of all the events. Again, I didn't watch a second, but I have not been one to talk shit about the Olympics, because if that's for you, that's cool.
Finnish athlete Remi Lindholm experienced unbearable pain.
Oh, can you imagine? I went outside this morning. I was like, it's really nippy outside today.
It was so cold that they actually reduced the competition by 40% of the distance. An hour and 16 minutes.
That's not really that long. I would have assumed it was like 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah. Wow. That is holy smokes.
Yeah, I think we all agreed you'd give up a finger or a toe before you'd ever give up the old penis.
Yeah, man. That is brutal. Well, that was not the headline that I saw from the weekend, John. The headline that we all saw from the weekend was Juwan Howard had his hands laid on, had somebody else laid hands on him, and he laid hands. Initially, it was throws a punch, although everyone knows a punch has to be a closed fist. This was an open hand. And, yeah, there was a big fight, big brawl. This was baseball. It would have been a good this was a good baseball brawl, John, but it was basketball, and we never get them in basketball, so it was extra good at the handshake line.
Well, sometimes you do get it, I guess, less in college, and even the NBA, no, they're too rich. We used to get it a lot more, I feel, in basketball in our youth. That's something I do miss. Just player on player, just a brawl. Those stopped.
Like a shove, and then it really becomes a fight?
My main issue with this, again, this is based on social media reaction, but it feels like every show or whatever was probably talking about this. It did go pretty viral. Is if something crazy happens, let's say on Sunday Night Football, which happens sometimes, a crazy call, everyone has an opinion because everyone was watching. When things used to happen crazy in like Major League Baseball in the 80s and the 90s in like a big national game, 35 million people were watching. I haven't seen the television rating on this, but and it was Michigan, Wisconsin, so there were some people watching, but probably like 400,000 people. The amount of people with opinions on this that I couldn't pay, I couldn't write them a check to consume a college basketball game before March Madness is pretty high. Now, you could argue that everyone's allowed to have an opinion on that. That's true, but the amount of like fake inspiration to their anger is like, how do you care this much on something that you will never watch? I would imagine Guy Haberman, it's hard because I guess some of these bigger schools, right? If you're a Wisconsin alum or an Arizona alum or a Auburn alum, it's you probably do, once your team's in the top like 15, you're just going to end up watching more. So they some of these bigger schools have a base. UCLA's good this year. I mean, these teams have people that consume their games. And definitely the Big Ten, you would probably argue their fan bases are fucking massive. So I'm underselling it a little bit. But it doesn't seem to me their fan base is like Portnoy and Big Cat making fun of each other because they went to school there. They might have been watching the game. But the average media guy is just not. There's no way. But they're all up in arms.
But why do I have to watch basketball to have an opinion on a fight if I was going to? Because I would say that.
There's a difference between like having an opinion and the like. I feel most people are kind of going Stephen A on this. Like, I don't believe you actually care that much
about the fight or about basketball.
About just the fight and what it represents, and like, because here's my overall take: isn't really that big a deal. Now, listen, you don't want a coach doing that. Suspend him 4 or 5 games. Can we just move on? Like, does it really have to be that big of an issue? Because to me, if this happened in the Final Four or something and 40 million people, to me, it's a big. I don't know. I don't find it to be that big of an issue.
Well, I mean, if it were, week 7 of the NFL season, it wouldn't be as big of a story, right? But it is the biggest thing that happened this weekend, probably in sports.
Oh, you're saying if Juwan Howard had done that like in November or whatever.
Yeah, if he just done it when there are like other big stories going on. Like, I think that's part of it. I think part of it is it's Juwan Howard. So everybody immediately goes, oh shit, Juwan Howard. Then the video was pretty just the video's kind of crazy. I was confused the first time I watched the video because all the Wisconsin coaches are wearing polo shirts. Kind of lame. Like, everyone in suits would make this even funnier. Fighting in dress shoes is a lot harder than fighting in sneakers. Somebody always falls down when they're all in dress shoes. You know what I mean? But everyone's in sneakers, so everyone's got good traction, so that kind of hurts it.
Didn't suits get thrown out the window in basketball the last couple of years?
A lot of them. Mick Cronin refusing to go to polos. He's wearing suits. He said, I coach in the same seat as John Wooden, miles away from where Pat Riley wore Armani's. Like, this is a big deal to me. I'm wearing suits. I'm like,
is he
Mick Cronin?
How many? I mean, is he the only Pac-12 coach? It feels like he would be an outlier.
No, some guys will do it. Like, sometimes Andy Enfield still wears suits. Some guys are doing the sometimes thing.
Gotcha.
To me, I always like, if you're traveling and you'd rather just one bag, couple polos, as opposed to like multiple shoes and suits and all that. Like, but I got thrown off. I thought the Wisconsin coaches were like alternate referees wearing windbreakers because their shirts are kind of ugly. They got like something on the shoulders. I don't even know what the design was. So I got thrown off the first time I watched it. I think the other thing is Michigan's not very good this year. They're 14-11 relative to, what they want to be, like national championship contender. The question I have is like, are they unhappy with Juwan? I saw Jeff Goodman a couple weeks ago wrote a story about why it's the struggle for big-time former players coaching. Like, there aren't a lot of guys that are able to do it really, really well. Penny Hardaway's had a little heat on him this year. Penny said before the year, like, when he got the job, we want all the smoke. That was his quote. I want all the smoke. And then people are criticizing him because Memphis is like on the bubble and he's mad that people are criticizing him. So that was part of the Goodman article. But I think it's part of the story of the year is like Michigan people think should be better. And I think that's like if they were a 2 overall seed right now, no one would be talking about, should he be fired?
If I remember correctly, the tournament happened last
year?
Last
year they were really good.
Yeah, weren't they a 1 seed or something? They were a high seed.
Yeah, they were one of the best. UCLA ultimately beat them. They might have been a 1 seed. They were fantastic last year.
Yeah, they were good. So he has not been a joke or whatever there.
No.
He's had a good team.
No, it's only his 3rd year. That's the other thing. I also don't think as a coach you can throw hands. Like, that's kind of nuts.
Well, again, I'm not saying that you can just have this going on. My point is that there's just a lot of like, part of it is, like to me, Mark Titus, Doug Gottlieb, like these people that are watching countless games, like they get to have legitimate, to me, like Jay Billis. Like, I'm interested to see what they're saying.
Right.
Like when I see Desmond Howard start yelling at Dickie V, it's like, give me a fucking break.
No, I agree with you on that point.
I thought Doug had a good take. That like Michigan basketball is a really high level operation, right? Their athletic department, their basketball and football team. I mean, if you just did the rankings when you combine them, they're top 10, right? Basketball, football, if it's one entity, they're high. After the game, emotions running hot. I'm not expecting Juwan to be like, I fucked up. Like I get it. I give you a pass. But by the following day, you've taught by Pat Riley, like. Probably got to come out with a statement like, I regret doing that. But I think there's a good chance that not only does he not feel he regrets it, that he was in the right and like, I don't take it back. And that's where I do wonder with the players, when you play for a long time at a real, Juwan, I think you would say underwhelmed probably a little in the NBA, but he did have like an 18-year career. I don't know if you truly look at it like Mick Cronin knows. When Mick Cronin is 28 years old coming up, and let's say he gets his first big gig as like the 4th assistant on Michigan, can you imagine if he got into an altercation, he would get fired, his career would be over. You think about things. Juwan Howard's like, I've almost been in fights like every other game I've ever played in. Like I'm always on edge. And Pat Riley taught me to fucking be ready to go.
Right.
So I wonder if there's a mindset of like, I don't quite think like a coach, which I kind of respect. Like I'm with you. I saw Penny Hardaway earlier this season screaming at a reporter about something. And I don't follow Memphis basketball. I was actually had their game on yesterday. Larry Brown's on his staff.
Yeah.
At Memphis. So it's like it was kind of weird because they were playing SMU. I'm like, isn't that where he got in trouble? It's like I'm trying to put all the pieces. He actually looks pretty good for a guy that's like 77 years old.
Is that honestly? Larry feels like he'd be older than that. Is that
Would you see the picture of Ahmad Rashad next
I
to
did.
Bill Murray? Ahmad's older than Bill Murray.
Well, Ahmad's 70 something, right?
Ahmad's 72. Bill Murray 71.
John, Larry Brown is 81.
I thought he looked pretty good sitting right next to Penny. But I understand these former players have a little bit different of a mindset, which to me sometimes healthy, just
for sure. But to your point, it does. I think you're right. It gets in the way of like, as a player, you get in a fight, you get disciplined, you move on. You don't have to necessarily apologize if you think you were right. Right.
I would say most players, they don't. They just get suspended. They move on.
Yeah, it's different for a coach. I mean, in baseball, all the time, there's all these, and no one's ever apologizing in baseball. Like at the times when there are real fights, there's less and less real fights. But
regardless of good or bad, whether you agree, and again, most people wouldn't be able to agree or disagree because they didn't watch the game. So they wouldn't even know like the timeout. You'd be like, what? No, you just see the fight.
Well, that was one thing Juwan said after the game, that we were not full court pressing when they were definitely full court pressing.
Yeah, and then the whole guy's opinion was like, I had my backups in, I called a timeout, so we didn't screw up a play. Like, you're allowed to get your reps in on either side, do whatever you want. Is he allowed to stop him and say something? Because clearly the Wisconsin coach wanted to stop Juwan and be like, I think he was trying to tell him, like, listen, I wasn't trying to be a dick. That's my take, right?
Right.
He's going to stop him and like, I wasn't trying to rub it in your face, bro. And Juwan is just from the Pat Riley school where he's like, fuck you, don't touch me.
The second somebody grabs you and you're already pissed at them, you're not here. Like, you might have that reaction.
Tweet out a million pictures of like a lot of people grab in that scenario, coaches.
Yeah, no, I understand. But I'm just saying, the second you grab, there's the chance it goes wrong. That would be my ultimate. You agree with that? The second you grab someone, there's just a chance it's going to get away from you and you're not going to be able to get it back.
But this is where back to the player coach. I bet like Izzo and all these guys in the conference often, even if they're mad at each other, know they can't like shove each other.
Yes, of course.
There were so many pictures of like Coach K and Izzo over the years of them being at press conferences where like Izzo would put his arm around, just like, but again, like there is a level of, now I sound like I'm defending Juwan Howard. Like, bro, you've been a coach now long enough. Like you gotta pivot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Wes Welker, there are things he could say as a player, as a slot receiver for Peyton or Tom Brady. If Wes Welker ever becomes a coach, probably things that are going to be off limits for him to say, right?
There are things you can say to another player if you're a player that if you're a coach and you say it to a player, now you're in trouble, right?
What was Coach K's thing with Dylan Brooks? Didn't he tell him to like, remember that thing where he's like, something happened in a March Madness game. They were blowing him out or something, and he said, like, act with more class. And
yeah, but then after the game, part of it was he said he didn't say something. That's right.
Yeah, and then he wouldn't really apologize.
You're too good of a player to do that. He hit a 3 late in the game. That was,
but that's very, whether he's right or wrong, that's very coachy.
Yes,
Juwan's was a little like, we're fucking playing pickup here, and I think you hard fouled me. I'm gonna backhand you to the assistant, who I guess is a former Badger player. He's probably been assistant on the staff with what's his name? Because this guy that's the coach now for Wisconsin was the assistant for the older guy that was there forever, right?
Yes, who then stepped aside during the season to make sure that his guy got the job. Who's this guy? This guy got the job, Greg Gard, because, what was his predecessor's name? Really good, always angry.
He'd been there forever, and they'd had really good teams.
Something with a B. I think the story was he kind of left during the year because he wanted his guy to get the job and they'd be forced to give his guy the job.
But this guy is good, clearly.
Bo Ryan. Yeah, I mean, Bo Ryan stepped down in like 2015, so this guy's been there for a while.
This guy wins. Like, they go to the tournament. They compete for the conference.
On the stream, Can't Tame Me says, Jordan the GOAT, he went to Daytona and then sobered up to attend the 75th anniversary ceremony. Did he? I mean,
sober up?
Sober up?
Well, doesn't he? He owns a car.
He owns a car. The pictures, he looked like he was having more fun at Daytona, although I know he was hugging everybody at the NBA All-Star game.
Do you think he's still the go-to alpha of the group?
Of the NBA All-Star game or Daytona?
Of the NBA All-Star game.
I mean, yeah.
Feels like the only guy that can even, just because of his personality, is magic a little bit. Like Jerry West is a little more subdued, even though I think Jerry's in Jerry's mind, he's every bit as big a deal as anyone there, which he should think that way, right? He's a logo / like when Shaq gives him a hug, he's hugging him because Jerry West signed him to the Lakers, right? He drafted Kobe. Like Jerry to me has the most unique career out of all, because a lot of them are just players. Jerry's like, yeah, I did everything here. I did it all.
Well, the whole story about like Jerry can't get a ticket to a Laker game anymore is pretty crazy.
Oh, they canceled his tickets on his wife or something? Yeah. He's like, they didn't even give me a text.
It's like he's the logo. I don't think you can cancel the logo.
Did you see the video that went viral today of if you couldn't make it, you went somewhere and you did a video of waving? So these guys just did a video, like 10
for the
guys,
75th?
like Larry Bird, Scottie Pippen, Karl Malone, and they just kind of Steve Nash, to a camera.
No,
I wonder if
I gotta go watch.
I get like Steve Nash not showing up. He's like, I'm not showing up to the All-Star game. I'm working. I'm taking this little vacation. It does feel a little bit like Scotty. Like, I don't really want to face Michael. I've talked a lot of shit about this whole thing.
I gotta find that video. I didn't see it. You gotta send me this. Here we go.
Steve. Levitar did a pretty funny thing with
it. The Nash wave. Last thing, John, real quick on the stream. Andres says, "Are we still doing Shave It or Save It?" Yes, let's reprise Shave It or Save It with LeBron James, John. When he got a haircut. Well, I just mean his hair is very short. He's got a very significant bald spot and some recession. But as we've talked about before, when you're tall, TV does you a disservice because it shows you from the top. But most other people have no idea.
Yeah, he's bald, but it's we do need some Shave It or Save It people to shoot us. Yeah.
Give us a Shave It or Save It submission. If you're balding, if you're not sure what to do, if you're holding on, we need 3 photos, front, top, maybe a couple of sides. So maybe it's 4 photos, a side, a back. Something.
We develop Shave It or Save It at gmail.com, or is that too much work?
We probably could do that. DMs
probably easier than just the DMs.
You think so? For them or for us?
I mean, it would just be one spot. I don't know. It's pretty easy to email pictures on your phone. I mean, everyone has an email on their phone now, doesn't it?
I mean, our emails are in our Twitter handles too, but yeah, we could do a Shave It or Save It. But there's no reason not to, other than you have to then check it. And I've got, you know what? We have an email set up for promo code HAM for the hat sales.
What would that one be? Promo code HAM at gmail.com?
Yeah. But it requires checking it, which means I got to sign out of one. We got to sign into the other, have it in a different browser.
We think about it. I'm just throwing this off.
Yeah, it's a good thought. It's not a bad thought. Also, hit us with some mailbag questions. We'll be coming back now that we're into the 2022-2023 season. So mailbag, iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. We appreciate that. But leave a question. That's how you enter the mailbag. You go to iTunes. You leave us a review. Leave us a question. Question can be anything. Anything you want. Anything you want. John, tell me how to become a scout. Tell us how to start a podcast. Somebody hit me with that the other day. Didn't get back to him yet, but I will. Who do you think is going to be the first pick of the NFL draft? Whatever. Tell us your favorite bar as well, and that's how you get in the mailbag. So, yeah, man. Holler at us. All right. Later, everybody.
Happy President's Day to us.
Go Presidents.